Okay, let's unpack this. I want to start with a feeling that, well, I think pretty much everyone listening has felt, or at least heard about in the last year. It's that low-level hum of anxiety when it comes to kids and artificial intelligence. The narrative, I see it in headlines
Oh, the
constantly.
apocalypse narrative.
Right. The fear that AI is just going to do everything for the next generation, that'll make
Yeah.
them lazy, passive, just glued to screens, consuming content they didn't create, basically forgetting how to think.
And it is a valid concern if you look at how a lot of this tech is marketed. It's almost always sold as ease. But what's so fascinating about the material we have today is that it completely flips that script. We're looking at a case study that argues the real danger isn't laziness at all.
Yeah, the source material is from a YouTube channel called The Prompt Partners, and it features a father, Peng, and his 7-year-old son, Jaden. And Peng says something right off the bat that it stopped me in my tracks. He basically says, I'm not worried about my son being lazy. I'm worried he won't know how to command the most powerful tool in history.
That is such a massive distinction. It's the difference between being a passenger in a self-driving car and being the one who's programming the destination. So the mission of this deep dive is to really explore how a 7-year-old who, let's be honest, probably can't type very fast yet, went from having this vague idea to building a fully functional software application.
And they did it by treating AI not as some magic button that does your homework for you, but as
Yeah.
well, how would you even describe it?
I describe the relationship they build as the architect and the builder.
Yeah.
The AI is like the junior developer who knows how to lay the bricks, but it needs really, really specific instructions on where the wall goes. If you don't tell it, the wall ends up in the middle of the driveway.
So let's just walk through this process because they didn't just sit down and say, computer, make app.
Yeah.
They used a very specific workflow. Identify, brainstorm, implement.
Which, ironically, is the same workflow I see senior product managers struggle with at major tech companies. But seeing it applied by a father and son, it just brings it right down to earth.
Okay, so let's start with identify, the pain point. This is so relatable to anyone who's ever met a 7-year-old or, frankly, anyone who's tried to get ready for work in the morning. Jaden has trouble managing his time.
A universal struggle. Time is so abstract to a kid. 5 minutes means nothing until it's gone.
Exactly. So they decided, okay, let's build a visual timer. But here's where the
No
creativity...
senior parenting.
Yes, and the parenting kicked in. They didn't just say make a clock. Pang made Jaden sit down and actually brainstorm concepts. And Jaden pitched 2 distinct ideas.
And this is that brainstorm phase, and it's so critical. Most people just skip this and go straight to the prompt. Javen's first idea was a bird flying across the screen.
Which sounds cute.
It is cute. The bird flies, hits the edge of the screen, time's up. Linear, simple. But Pang pushed him for a second option. And that second option was much more conceptually interesting, the leaking fish tank.
The leaking fish tank. I love this. So the concept is you got a tank, there's a crack in the bottom, and the water just leaks out. When the tank's empty, time is up. So why did they go with this one over the bird?
Well, I think it's about the volume of time. Seeing a water level drop gives you a much better sense of how much time is left compared to an object just moving from left to right. It's just a better data visualization.
But there was a catch. And this part, it really cracked me up. While they're mapping out the logic, crack in bottom, water goes down, Jaden realizes the dark implication of his own invention.
The biology problem.
Right. He realizes that when the water runs out, the fish die.
It's a tragedy.
A total existential crisis for a 7-year-old. It's like, Dad, I'm building a machine that kills fish every time I do my homework.
And I just love Peng's reaction here. He doesn't coddle him, but he also doesn't dismiss it. He treats it like an engineering constraint. He basically says, okay, let's forget about the fish mortality rate for a second. Let's just focus on the physics of the water.
It's such a pragmatic pivot.
Yeah.
Like, save the fish in version 2.0.
Exactly. In the software world, we call that defining the minimum viable product, or MVP. Don't worry about the complex ecosystem simulation just yet. Just get the timer mechanic working. If we get hung up on the morality of the virtual fish, we'll never build the timer.
So they have the concept. Now they need the blueprint. And this is where the story, for me, it just shifts gears, because if I were doing this, I'd open a laptop and start typing requirements. But Jaden's 7. He grabs a whiteboard marker.
This is the blueprint phase. And I want to pause here because this is arguably the most significant shift we are seeing in how humans interact with computers. Jaden acted as the graphic designer. He drew the user interface, the UI, on a physical whiteboard.
So he draws a table, a tank sitting on it, some buttons, It's a scribble. I mean, it's a 7-year-old's drawing.
It is. But that scribble is the code.
See, that's the part I really want to dig into. How do we get from a marker on a whiteboard to an app on an iPad? Peng used a really specific strategy here called a plan file.
Yes. This is a pro tip that applies to anyone listening, whether you're building a toy app or a complex business tool. Usually people just dump everything into the chat window with the AI. Here's a picture, make this. But chat windows are messy. The AI forgets things as you scroll up. It hallucinates.
So what makes a plan file different?
They created a dedicated text file, a static document. They uploaded the photo of Jaden's whiteboard sketch right into that file. And the prompt was incredibly explicit. Read this plan, look at this photo, create the app based on this design.
I see. So it's like giving a contractor a set of actual blueprints and saying, do not deviate from these, rather than just shouting instructions at them while they work.
Precisely. It gives the AI a source of truth. It anchors the AI so it doesn't get, creative in ways you don't want. And it lowers the barrier to entry so dramatically because the syntax for the code wasn't Swift or Python. The syntax was a marker on a whiteboard.
Okay, so they have the plan file. Now let's talk tools. They mention using Xcode, which I know is the standard Apple developer thing. But then they mention a tool called Anti-Gravity.
Anti-gravity?
Is that a game? Is that a sci-fi movie prop? What is that?
It does sound cool, right? In this context, anti-gravity refers to an AI-assisted development environment, basically a smart editor or an IDE wrapper. Think of it as a workspace that lets you drag and drop images and files directly into the context window of the AI model.
That's the bridge.
It's the engine. It's called anti-gravity because it lifts the weight of the heavy lifting off the user. It handles the folder structures and the file management so the human can focus on the logic. It's what allowed a 7-year-old to code without knowing how to type a single curly bracket.
So they run this prompt through anti-gravity. The AI analyzes the plan. It asks for permission to proceed, which I thought was a nice touch. And then boom, the first build.
And
it worked. Well, sort of.
Sort of is the key.
It had a table. It had 3 buttons that matched the drawing. But it was ugly. And this leads to the dad's big philosophy, which he repeats a few times. We need to be the architect.
That is the core takeaway of this entire story. If AI is the builder, the human has to be the architect. The architect sets the vision, the constraints, the aesthetic. The builder lays the bricks. If the architect gives a vague blueprint, the building falls down. Peng is teaching his son that the quality of the output depends entirely on the clarity of the command.
But let's go back to that first build, because I think this is where most people give up. They try AI, it gives them something slightly broken, and they go, see, AI is hyped. It doesn't work.
Right. It can't even draw a fish tank.
Exactly. The line representing the table was drawn on top of the buttons. It looked like a geometry mistake. And the tank wasn't really a tank. It was just a circle.
So imagine you're 7 years old, you had this big idea, the computer built it, and it looks kind of trashy. That's a fragile moment. That could be the point of frustration where he just walks away.
But Peng asks Jaden a question. He asks, what if AI makes mistakes?
And Jaden's response is the highlight of the source material for me. He doesn't get sad. He doesn't say, Dad, fix it. He says, then I'll make him fix it.
Then I'll make him fix it.
That is power.
It's such a shift in the hierarchy.
It is. Think about how we usually view computers. The computer is the authority. It gives us error messages. It tells us invalid input. We serve the machine. Jaden just flipped that. He sees the AI as a subordinate that messed up his instructions. You put the line on the buttons. Go move the line.
So they enter the debugging round. And again, they aren't diving into lines of code. They aren't searching for a missing semicolon.
No, they're just using natural language. They tell the AI to remove the table line from the mockup. They add logic so the user can adjust the time from, 1 to 60 minutes?
And they start visualizing the data. They describe the working app. It becomes a circle that shrinks. The green part of the circle recedes as time passes. It's a classic visual timer, but it was built entirely on their terms.
But even then, they weren't done. And this is the part that really illustrates the difference between code and product.
The user experience.
Exactly. So they're testing it, watching it count down. 3, 2,
1.
And then silence.
It just stopped.
It just stopped. And Jaden noticed immediately that it lacked any agency. If you're playing a video game or doing homework and the timer just silently hits 0, you're going to keep playing. The fish are safe, but the homework isn't done.
And this is what we call user acceptance testing, or UAT. The user, Jaden, identified a functional gap. The product didn't meet the emotional need, which was to alert him that time was up. A developer might say, well, the timer reached 0, the function is complete. but the user says it's boring.
So he requests a feature update. He wants the screen to flash.
And notice the specificity again. They didn't just say make it exciting. They told the AI to make the screen flash for 10 seconds when the time is up.
And the next iteration worked perfectly. You can actually hear the excitement in the source audio when they see it flash. It's that aha moment where the machine finally understood the vision.
And there's a small but really important detail here, too. The father notes that after Jaden went to bed, or maybe just later on, he went back in himself to add some finishing touches. He smoothed out the animations to make it feel a bit more premium.
Which I think is a great lesson in partnership. The AI builds the foundation, the kid provides the vision and the logic, and the adult or the expert provides that final polish.
It shows that AI isn't replacing the human element, it's just elevating the baseline. It gets you to 80 or 90% instantly, allowing you to spend your time on that final 10% that makes something special.
So let's look at the outcome. They built the app, but does Jaden actually use it? Because I have a closet full of educational toys that got used once and then gathered dust.
According to Peng, Jaden uses it every single day for his homework.
That is huge. Why do you think that is? I mean, is the app objectively better than the stock iPhone timer?
Probably not objectively, but it's the IKEA effect. We tend to value things disproportionately when we build them ourselves. Jaden isn't just using a timer, he's using his timer. He understands how it works because he decided how it works. That sense of ownership is what drives the productivity.
And he's happier using it. It's not a chore, it's a tool he actually controls.
And this circles all the way back to the mission statement Peng laid out at the beginning. He said, AI is innovatable. He wants to bridge that gap between a child's imagination and real-world software. And by documenting every build, every prompt, and every failure, they're showing other parents that this is actually possible.
It's about moving from what can this app do for me to what can I make this app do?
Precisely.
And I want to pivot this to our listeners, the learners out there, because most of the people listening right now aren't 7 years old. They're professionals, students, parents.
Right.
How does this apply to them?
Well, think about that spreadsheet you hate updating, or that daily email you write from scratch every single morning, or the way you organize your family budget that never quite fits the apps on the App Store.
We all have those friction points.
We do, and we usually just live with them because we think, well, I can't code a solution. But the lesson from Jaden is that you don't need to code. You need to identify the pain point. You need to brainstorm the logic, like the leaking fish tank, and you need a plan file.
The barrier to entry has just collapsed.
Completely. If a 7-year-old can take a whiteboard sketch and an AI editor and build functional tool, what's stopping you? The only missing piece is the architect mindset.
And the willingness to tell the AI, hey, you put the line on top of the buttons, fix it.
The confidence to be the boss. That's the key.
So what does this all mean for the future of education? If kids are growing up doing this, are we going to see a generation of supercoders?
I think we're going to see a generation of super solvers. They won't necessarily be writing Python or C++. They'll be orchestrating solutions, they'll be experts in describing what they want and iterating until they get it. The conversation is the code.
The conversation is the code. I love that. It really reframes that whole fear of laziness we started with.
It does. Laziness is consuming what others built. Agency is building what you need.
Well, that brings us to the end of this deep dive. It's been a fascinating look at how a father and son are navigating this new world. And honestly, it makes me want to go draw some app ideas on a napkin.
I'm expecting a prototype on my desk by Monday.
I'll see what I can do. Maybe a podcast script generator that works perfectly every single time.
Now, that would be useful.
A huge thank you to the source material from the Prompt Partners. It's really inspiring stuff. And to you, the listener, here's a final thought to take with you. If you could draw a solution to your biggest daily headache on a napkin right now, what would it look like? And, more importantly, knowing what you know now about Jaden and his fish tank, why haven't you tried to build it yet?
The tools are waiting.
Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.